Hello everyone and welcome back to another video. In today's video, we are going to be talking about Battle of BC7, which is taking place this weekend, Canada's first major of the year. And you have a ton of international talent coming down to make this one really exciting. For your top 16 seeds, you're going to have Shiny Mark, Pocket, Snow, and Cola in 13th, Leo, Gluttony, Raru, and Zomba in 9th. In 7th, you've got Syrup and Light. 5th is Tweak and Shoe Tone. 4th is Mia. 3rd is Spargo. 2nd is Acola. And projected to win the entire thing is Hurt. So the bracket is split up into two ways before the top 24. And our first seed is going to be Hurt. And his first opponent is likely going to be Danny 2 Venny. Now, this is a match that Hurt should win. He's the best player in the world right now. At least I think that he is. He's been playing quite exceptionally these past couple events. But I also think that Wolf and Danny is a good enough player and a good enough character to take out someone of Hurt's caliber. You have a Reflector. You have tools to contest Snake when he is at his most vulnerable, like your neutral air, like your back air. So I think that there's a chance here for Danny, but Hurt is going to be the heavy favorite coming into this. He's just looking like the best player in the world right now. Then you're going to have Cola up against Ken, and I would expect Cola to take this one. I think Roy is pretty good against Sonic, relative to the rest of the cast. Still not a walk in the park, but it's also a walk that Cola has done many times before. He's played against Wrath, and obviously it's a different style of Sonic, but at the end of the day, it's still about can you hit them when they're spin dashing and can you disengage properly or engage properly when you need to against the character, and I do think that Cola is going to be able to do so. Then you're going to have Hurt versus Cola, and Hurt has a really good record against Cola, and I honestly just think that it's the playstyle. Or rather, Cola is such an aggressive player, and Hurt is going to see that, and he's just going to allow you to swing at him, and he's going to abuse you super hard. Snake is one of the best characters of the game at abusing someone for swinging because of where you can place your grenades, and Hurt exploits that extremely well. So unless we see a bit of a game plan change from Cola, maybe he comes in a little bit slow, or maybe he just comes in like really fast, like the speed that Hurt has ever seen before. It could work, but I do think that Hurt is definitely favored. Next up is going to be Syrup against MK Big Boss, and I think that Rob is one of the best characters in the game against Steve. It's really easy for him to contest Minecart and Anvil relative to everyone else because of neutral air, back air as well, if you want to be a little bit more precise. Really good at breaking the blocks because of nair and back air. Again, down tilt is also a great tool. Laser is great for disrupting if he doesn't have that big wall up in front of him. Down tilt, or rather gyro, is always gyro. That move is just so insane. So you've got a lot of tools for Rob, but if Steve up tilts you or jabs you, especially in the hands of Syrup, you're probably just going to die as that Rob player. And Syrup has been just like unbelievable recently. The guy's been on Cloud9, not literally, but he should be on a sponsor of that tier soon because he has been winning. He's been consistently getting into these top 8s. He's just been incredible. So I do expect him to win this match against MK Big Boss, but the tools are there for Big Boss. He has a chance. It's just a really hard opponent that he's up against. Then you're going to have MK Leo against Ouch. We get our rematch from Battle of BC5, which I am not over, by the way, and I don't think I'll ever be over it. That was a tragedy, and it's probably going to go the same way here. I do think that Leo is going to take this one. I don't believe that Ouch has ever taken a set off Leo, even though he's got close before, and this could be it. You know, he was so close the last time. It has to be it, but I am going to be going with Leo. I have to get away with the biases, and the biases are going to keep going away because I think that Syrup is also going to win against MK Leo. Yes, he's the GOAT, but the Steve GOAT has been emerging recently. Like, I know I literally just talked about it 2 seconds ago, but I have to give my praises to Syrup. I've been so impressed by him recently. He's like the fastest, I think, improving player in North America right now, and he's honestly got a pretty solid chance to win this whole thing. Next up is going to be Mia against Big D, and Mia is going to win this one. He's probably just going to play Steve, might go Game & Watch, maybe he'll go me Sword Fighter. Like, low-key, the stuff I've been seeing with that character on Twitter nowadays, I feel like that matchup's probably winning against Ice Climbers. And at the end of the day, that's really the kind of problem with this character, is it doesn't matter if you're someone as talented as Big D when I just hit Nana one time and all of a sudden you are significantly the worst character in the game. And a player like Mia is very good at exploiting Nana as well. He's not going to let Big D just get away with keeping her alive. He's going to, if Big D tries to save her, go off stage to kill Big D. So this is going to be a matchup that I think is extremely tough for Big D. I don't want to completely write him out. He's on the home turf as well, but man, it's just a really tough draw. Then you're going to have Snow up against Wrath, and I think that Wrath is going to pull off the upset here. They've only played one time before, and it ended up going into Wrath's favor, and you also have Snow with a losing record against Ken. He's taken a set before, but overall it is in Ken's favor. And also, I think the matchup is just not super great for Super Mario. It's just really tough for him to get his openings against Spin Dash. Like, he got hit like a down tilt or a neutral air and up air. Those are just not big hitbox moves for Mario to just throw out against Sonic into the neutral. So I do think that Wrath is going to take that one. But to be fair, Snow has beaten Sonic before by just timing him out. So this guy knows what he's doing against Sonic. This isn't any Mario. But I still think that Wrath is going to win. I think that timing out Wrath is actually harder than timing out Sonic when they're just the one that's getting timed out, if you know what I mean. Wrath is very, very patient. But anyway, Mia versus Wrath is our next matchup, and I do think that Mia should win that one. I don't know what his record is against Ken at this point, but I know it's pretty unbelievable. He's just really good against Sonic. Again, against Sonics, he isn't as successful, but I also don't think that Wrath has the aggression that Sonics has that allows him to succeed up against Mia. So unless he's going absolutely turbo mode this week and just hitting some crazy combos, I think Mia's going to take that one. Next up is going to be Tweak, and he's likely going to be facing up against Monty. And I don't think this is a great draw for Tweak. Game & Watch is not super fun for Diddy Kong, but I think that Tweak should be fine. Like, at this point, he's got Meister on his own team for Game & Watch experience. He's played and lost to Mia a ton, so it's a matchup that he has probably put in work to improve at. I just think he's going to have done the work prior to this set where he should be fine against Monty. He could bring out the Sephiroth as well. That's always a tool that he has at his disposal, and it's not a terrible matchup for the character, even though the character is terrible. So we'll have to see how that unfolds with Tweak, but I think that he should have that one under control. Then you're going to have Gluttony against Riddles, and this is like one of the most important, if not honestly the most important set of the tournament. At least that happens before the top 24, because as you can see, Gluttony's got a great record on Tweak. Like, you do have Tweak winning their last set at Genesis, but prior to that, it was super, super dominant for Gluto, and Riddles has a pretty solid record on Gluttony, beating him in the last 3 events, and then Riddles does not have a great record against Tweak. You're just gonna have to take my record for it, or my word for it there. So this is a bit of a triangle here. If Gluttony wins, I expect him to beat Tweak, even though Tweak won their last encounter. I just think that Tweak probably playing really well at that one event and him completely figuring everything out. And then if Riddles beats Gluttony, which I think is the likely thing to happen, I would expect Tweak to beat Riddles. I think Diddy Kong just does really well against all of the FGC characters. And it's probably going to be Terry from Riddles. Maybe against Gluttony, he just sticks out with the Kazi because it does do super well against Wario. And I do think that is the more likely outcome, that Riddles comes out on top. So because of that, I'm going to be picking Tweak to get through on the winner side. But I wanted to lay out all my variables there because there's a lot of stuff that could go down here depending on who wins the set between Gluto and Riddles. Really quickly, I should add, I definitely think that Riddles has a chance to beat Tweak. The way I was talking about it, it seemed like there's like a 0% just to guarantee that Tweak's going to win. No, obviously not. And the way that Terry's been looking for Riddles, I do think that he's got a not decent chance against Tweak, but if he were to beat him at any point in recent history, it would probably be at this event. Moving on to the other side of the bracket, you got a Cola against Quick as our first matchup, and I would definitely expect Cola to win this one. I think Samus Steve is a really weird matchup because I think Samus is horrible at breaking the blocks against Steve. They just eat up the charge shot, which is like her main tool, obviously. But if Steve is in the air at all or just isn't having a million blocks in front of them, I think Samus is actually in a big advantage because of the threat that charge shot presents. You have moves like up tilt and back air where if you're competent, you are able to snipe Steve out of that minecart. So I think that this is definitely a character where if you're playing on point, you can beat the best Steve player in the world. But I think that Quick is going to need to play, like, really, really on point, to the point that I've never seen before, and I do think that Acola is going to win because of that. Then you're going to have Pocket going up against Rocky, and I would just expect Pocket to take this one. Straight up, though, I am just heavily underrating Rocky as a player. I just haven't really been around to watch his come up. I know he's been doing very well in Japan recently, absolutely killing it on the Kazuya. I'm still going to be going with Pocket to win, though. I just have a lot of faith in Pocket. I also think Steve Kazuya is a great matchup for Kazuya. Like, the one bad thing about Steve is that his neutral isn't that good, and then you have a character with, like, a worse neutral presented against him. Like, he can't even move around the stage at all, and it's like, okay, if you're getting outmaneuvered by Steve, you're probably not having a lot of fun. Then you're going to have Pocket against Acola. It's been a very long time since we've seen this Ditto, but I think it's going to unfold the exact same way. I'm sure Pocket's gotten a lot better at it. They better have gotten a lot better at it, but Acola is just like so good whenever there's another Steve on his screen. So I just expect him to win. I should also mention that you could have Rocky going the Ditto against Pocket, but I would expect Pocket to take the Ditto because, again, blind faith. Next up is going to be Light against Base Mage, and I would figure Light wins this one just because he's really, really good at the game, but it's always a scary matchup when you're a Fox or a Spacey in general up against Jigglypuff, especially one that's as drilled as Base Mage. Pun intended. That was very, very funny. It's just he has this flowchart off stage. The second that Fox is anywhere, Base Mage knows exactly where he needs to go in order to get back. You explode against or as Fox as well. You're not a light character, but it's the exact same thing for Jigglypuff. Those up airs are going to start killing around 90%. Don't even think about that down air or nair into up smash. So this should be a very volatile, very explosive matchup, but those are the matchups where you expect light to succeed. So I do think that he should come out on top. Then you're going to have Rauru against Mudace. And I think that Rauru should win this one. I'm honestly really looking forward to this set. You have the micro spacing king against the guy that is going to kill you if he ever gets his hands on you. And he's going to try to get his hands on you a lot. Rauru is not shy at all. He's going for those big swings. He's a very confident player. And Mudace is, let's just say his hands are going to be like killing him afterwards if he manages to win this set. There's going to need to be a lot of micromanaging going on against this. And I don't think that he's going to be able to pull it off. So I do think Rare is going to move on and take this upset over Light as well. Fox Luigi is just a nightmare for Fox. It's like, you actually just die in one hit. And I know I've said that like a couple times throughout this video. It doesn't really have a lot of meaning anymore. But if you get grabbed, if you get neutral aired, if you get down tilted, there's just so many things that as Fox, you just actually die. Off stage as well is horrible for Fox. Luigi's really good at exploiting that character. You hit him with one down tilt that just sets up perfectly into a downer. It's a miserable matchup for Fox. You had him losing to Luigi previously. I forget the tournament. I think it was Cavalier Clash, but he ends up losing to Luigi in his last set. Maybe it was Genesis, actually. So it's Genesis. Totally getting sidetracked, though. But again, loses to Luigi at Genesis. Close set there, but I think if he loses to Luigi and then you have the beast of Rauru up against you next, it's really hard for me to bet against you or on you. Next up is Spargo against Apollo Kage, and I'm definitely expecting Spargo to win this one. Now, to be fair to AK, I have no idea the form that this guy is in. Like, I can't even remember the last time I saw him at a big event, and that's not a diss on him. I just had bad memory. So he might be on the top of his game right now, and if he is, he's definitely got a shot against Spargo. When Apollo Kage is playing good, he can beat anyone in the world. But if you're not at 100% form, I do expect Spargo to win this one. The Snake matchup is one that he's going to be very ready for, considering that Hurt is probably the primary person to take this tournament from him. So AK is going to have to be playing really, really well to get the job done, but he's done it before. It's definitely possible. You're going to have Shiny Mark against Ryuo, and I think Ryuo has been killing it recently, but I still think that Shiny Mark should absolutely win this one, just because there are no good Pikachu players in Japan. Like, literally, there aren't any, and there are none on the scale of Shiny Mark, even close. I just don't think that Ryuo is going to be ready to play against Shiny Mark. He's just going to have too many tricks. He's not going to be able to track him down in the disadvantaged state, and Shiny Mark is going to get the dub. Then you're going to have Spargo against Shiny Mark, and I've talked about it before. I'll probably talk about it again, but Spargo just has an amazing record against Shiny Mark, especially offline. Like, online, it's a little bit better for Shiny Mark. He's got a couple more sets, but in offline sets, it's just so incredibly dominant in Spargo's favor. I don't know if Shiny Mark... Actually, I think Shiny Mark has taken a set before, but it was like a reset or something. So, never at a really big major event where the stakes were at their highest. Could this be the first time? Yes, absolutely. I think Shiny Mark has what it takes, but he just hasn't done it yet, and until he does, I'm going to be going with Spargo. Next up is going to be Shutone. He's going to be our final top seed before the top 24. He's going to be likely going up against Beastly. And I would actually heavily favor Shutone here just because he won his last set against Tweak, his first ever set against Tweak. So clearly he has put in a ton of time against Diddy Kong, making sure he is ready for that match. But I also think that Olimar is pretty good against Diddy. The Pikmin are really disruptive for Diddy in the neutral. Not only just having massive hitboxes that you could just use to swat the little monkey out, but also just throwing the Pikmin at him, disrupting when he wants to go for the banana. Just stuff like that can absolutely mess up the tempo of a player like Beastly. So I do think that Shutone should win that one. Then you're going to have Zomba against Toraguri. This one, really, really interesting because they played once before and it ends up going into Toraguri's favor. And I want to say that's matchup unfamiliarity for Zomba, but I also think, like, in theory, Banjo doesn't do terrible against Rob. You definitely have some decent tools there. Calm Wing Rob is, like, actually awesome. You have a real advantage state against that character. You don't need to be playing like a robot in order to get 60 damage. So I'm going to be going with Zomba to win this one still. I'm giving him the benefit of the doubt here. I think that the last time he lost with TG, he's like, okay, that's never going to happen again. I'm going to make sure I have a little more experience against Banjo. But I also don't know where that Banjo experience is necessarily coming from. So maybe this is also a little bit of NA cope. But honestly, we need as much cope as we can get recently because Japan has been getting better and better. And I don't think that the NA cope is going to take Zomba, unfortunately, to the winner side of the top 24. Because even though he did win his last encounter against Shutone, you gotta remember that that encounter happened at Genesis. And Zomba, aka Mr. Genesis, himself. I mean, that's what we got to start calling him at this point, because he's just performing every single one that he goes to. That's the last time that he's beaten Shutone in recent memory. Well, there was 3 wins before that, and then I think it was at Cirque was the last time that Zamba got a win. Maybe it was Crown, but regardless, it's been a while since Zamba has beaten Shutone outside of that one time at Genesis. I just think he's playing out of his mind at that event. Rob Ages is really difficult for Rob, and I do think that Shutone is going to take it. Getting into the top 24, you've got Hurt Syrup as our first matchup in the winner's side, and I would definitely expect Hurt to win this one, just considering his amazing record against Akola. Now, I think a large part of that is because Akola does not play well into Snake. He does a lot of minecarts against that character and anvils that are just very, very obviously bad, and if you do them against especially Hurt, you're going to get punished every single time. I don't think that Syrup is going to be giving him as many of those minecarts, but I still think that Hurt is going to be able to get the job done here. He's just so good at navigating against Steve in the neutral, and also at really just destroying the blocks and never letting the character set up. You're always being pressured when you're playing against Hurt. You never have a moment of respite, and because of that, he's probably the best player in the world up against Steve. He's also the best player in the world at contesting minecarts, because he just, rips it with up tilt. Like, yeah, it's nice that his character can do that, but also he just times it right every single time. So I do think that Hurt is going to win that one. Then we're going to have Mia versus Tweak, and I brought this up earlier when I was talking about Tweak versus Monty. Very tough head-to-head here for Tweak. He's never taken a set up against Mia, and I don't think that this is going to be the first time necessarily. I have to see it to believe it's one of those situations, and I'm going to believe that it's on the Diddy Kong. I think if Tweak gets the job done here, it is with his main character, and he just figures out a game plan that he's really comfortable with. I just don't think that Sephiroth is maybe not a good enough character to necessarily beat Mia. You just get literally killed after one interaction because of that lightweight, and the precision is amplified to like 100. Yeah, you got a big sword, but you also have way more frame data attached to it. So I do think that the solution has to be with Diddy Kong for Tweak, but I don't think the solution is necessarily going to come at this event. Next up is going to be Akola against Raru, because I do have him getting that upset over Light, and I do think that Akola should definitely win this one. It's kind of like I mentioned earlier when I was talking about Rocky and Pocket, but whenever you're playing against a character that has a worse neutral than Steve, you are just like, it's done. You literally just lose, even with a character like Luigi, who hits incredibly hard. The fact that he just gets slightly outspaced, slightly out-tempoed, not even talking about putting a massive wall in the middle of the stage that you can't really contest as Luigi. It's just very, very tough for him. You also have Akola with a 4-0 record on Raru, which definitely helps with my choice of picking Akola to get top 8 through the winner's side. Then you're going to have Spargo against Shutone, and Spargo has won his last 5 sets against Shutone. He has been extremely dominant against this guy, so I am going to be going with Spargo to win this one. Maybe Shutone's figured something out. He just figured out his longtime demon of Tweak. Maybe he's transferred all that brain power over to Spargo, but I don't think that's what's going to happen. You all know the drill at this point. We don't do the loser side of the bracket just because the majority of these matchups are not going to be happening. So we're taking players that are most likely to top 8, and we have given them their percentages. You got the confidence here with Mia, Hurt, Raru, and Spargo, and those are the guys that pick the top 8 winner side. Then you got somewhat confident with Shiny Mark, Syrup, Shutone, and Cola, and those are the people I expect to top 8 through the loser side of the bracket. Specifically, I think you got Shiny Mark getting top 8 through this part of the bracket right here. He's going to have to make a little bit of a loser's run, but I think he's got it against Ouch. I think he's got it against Shiny Mark, or rather against Zamba, and he does lose his last set up against Tweak, 3-0 in Tweak's favor at Genesis. But I think that Shiny Mark is going to have done the prep work for Diddy Kong coming into this bracket, especially considering that he's got to play against Ryuo in the winner's side. This should be a matchup that he is extremely ready for, and I do think that homework is going to pay off here. So I think Shiny Mark gets top 8 through that part of the bracket. Syrup just gets top 8 through this normal part of the bracket right here. I think this is more likely to be Light than it is Raru, and even though Light's really, really good against Steve, at the end of the day, it is still Steve Fox, and I think Syrup's kind of gotten to that point where he's just, like, indomitable in that matchup. He just hits you so hard, and you just, like, actually die. He started planking in it as well, which is, like, really difficult for Fox to deal with. I think Shutone's going to get top 8 through this normal part of the bracket right here. There's a couple people that I think definitely have a chance against Shutone. Like, obviously, Glutony's always got a chance against someone, but out of all these, like, very talented players that could make the run, I think Shutone's like the one with the highest percentage. Like, he's like 30 or 40% compared to the field. So I'm going to be taking him because of that one. But of the loser sets, I think this part of the bracket right here is probably the one with the highest amount of variance. It'd either be that one right here or this one right here. And I do think that you're actually going to have Cola getting top 8 through this part of the bracket right here, because I think he's got that against Toilet Goody. He's won his last 2 sets against MK Leo. And you got to remember, this is going to be Raru, not Light. And even though you do have Raru winning his last set against Cola. It was a game 5. This is an error here, but trust me, it was a game 5 where Cola almost pulled off the reverse 3-0 with the Aegis. So if he starts the set with the Aegis this time around, maybe even the Cloud just has a better sword spacing character at his disposal. I do think that he plays at a fast enough tempo where he could possibly overwhelm Rare. Obviously, easier said than done, but if anyone's going to overwhelm a top player, it's probably going to be Cola. And then the honorable mentions, the 12 players. You got Light, Zomba, Gluto, Snow, Leo, Raru, Tweak, Pocket, Toguri, Mudace, Ryuo, and Riddles. And this is one of those times where there's definitely people not on this top 20 list that could absolutely get into the top 8. This is a super stacked event. There's so many different people. I think the winner side is pretty clear. I think there's a lot of favorites that are like, yeah, the top seeds should just make it through, but this loser side, I have no idea what's going to go on. And we have finally arrived at the top 8. As always, this lovely graphic is made by Memorization. His link will be down below, so be sure to check him out and sub while you're down there. But the first matchup in this winner side is Hurt against Mia. And Mia is the heavy favorite coming into this set. Mia, I think, has won his last, 8 sets or 7 sets against Hurt. He's got such a dominant record there. And the reason that Hurt has been absolutely killing it recently is because he just hasn't run into Mia. And that's not to take away from him, because every other player in the world doesn't look like they stand a chance against Hurt right now. But against Mia, his main demon, he's just happened to avoid him so far in 2025, which has been a very big reason of why he's been so dominant. And I think this event is going to be the kind of indicator. Is Hurt going to be the best player in the world, or is that going to be a title that is up for grabs? If Mia destroys him in this set, then it's a title that's up for grabs. But if Hurt can make this competitive or actually take this set, then there is literally going to be nobody standing left in his way from that title of best player in the world. So really curious to see how this set goes. History says very dominant for Mia. He should be heavily favored here, but based off the way that Hurt's been playing, I honestly have no idea. Then you're going to have a Cola versus Spargo, which is arguably the only other matchup that could be more interesting than Hurt against Mia, because it's the rematch we finally get after Kaguribi. It's almost assuredly going to be Aegis against Cloud in this matchup, and I am going to be giving the credit here to Spargo. Now, there's a lot of things to consider here, but I think there's 2 main things to consider here. One of them is how much is Spargo working on the Aegis matchup, and the other thing is how much is Akola working on his Aegis, because after he got that main dub, he might have said, okay, my Aegis is at a really solid level. Obviously, I'm still going to play it, but the focus is going to go now back to Steve, making sure I actually level up my Steve combos, take them to that next level like you're starting to see some other players do in tournament. And if that's the case, I don't know if Akola is going to be able to get the dub here. I think he's going to continue needing to put almost all of his time into this Aegis. Not all of his time, of course, but fully innovating on this character, using it as a true secondary. And I think that'll be a really big benefit for Akola if he does do that, so he could bring it out against players like her, against players like Sonic. Just a bit of a different tempo change where the Steve isn't having a ton of success. So this Akola Spargo set should be really interesting. I think it's going to heavily rely on how much Akola has still invested into his Aegis, as well as how much practice has Spargo put in against Aegis specifically, making sure that that never happens again. He, of course, has an Aegis himself, so he should be comfortable in the matchup, but comfortability doesn't always get you the dub. I think Spargo should take this one, but both these winners matchups are absolute bangers. Next up is going to be Syrup against Shiny Mark, and this is a very interesting head-to-head for me, because you're going to have Shiny Mark and Syrup trading sets back and forth, and they've traded sets offline as well, both at the Coinbox IRL. Shiny Mark taking the first one, Syrup taking the second, and it's notably only Ness for Syrup in this set. He doesn't even try out the Steve, so it's likely going to be the Ness offline here too. And I do think that's a better matchup in a Pikachu, even though off stage it's gotten really bad for Ness Pikachu players. The flow charting has gotten excellent there. On stage, in the neutral, Ness does amazing against Pikachu. You have down B to absorb the T-Tilt. You just out-framed it, or not out-framed it, but out-boxed Pikachu. Even with those small Ness destroys, they definitely help against a character that's literally hitting with his face. You kill extremely early. It's literally just the off-stage aspect that Syrup has to worry about. And while that's definitely a big aspect to worry about, I think that he's going to be able to get the job done here. Honestly, really unlucky for Shiny Mark to find a Ness player this late in the bracket. And you could still have Syrup going Steve in this matchup and finding success. I definitely think his Steve is good enough, even though it's a bit of an awkward matchup for him, just because the T-Tilt can ride up the wall. You're never really truly safe from Pikachu. It's still the same situation where I do think that you outbox Pikachu. You do get that hit. Pikachu is an extremely light character. So I think Syrup is going to get the dub. Next up is Akola against Syrup, and this is just completely off of memory because it's been a little bit since I've seen Akola actually play someone in the Steve Ditto. I don't know if he's still the king of it, but he was the king of it, and it was not close. He was so dominant in that matchup against any other Steve. He just understood the character at a fundamental level way better than everyone else. He was exploiting the minecarts. He was understanding how to break the wall so he didn't himself get punished. He was just perfect in that matchup. Now, I don't know if that's still the case, and you could probably apply everything that I said to Akola to Syrup as well, and you would still be right, but I'm gonna be going with Akola to win this one, and this is just me entirely giving him the benefit of the doubt. This guy's the best Steve player in the world. I expect him to win in the Steve Ditto. I think Syrup has a real shot to win this one. This should be a close set. For if you've ever seen a Steve Ditto be a banger, it is going to be this one, because this is the highest octane Steve that the entire world has to offer right now, and I do think that Akola, the best Steve player in the world, should come out on top. Then you're going to have Hurt versus Cola, and it's the exact same things that I said earlier. They've played a couple times before. Hurt's going to come out on top in all of their encounters. I really think it's the tempo from Cola that is biting him in the butt here, and I'm very curious to see if he ends up switching it up, or even if he needs to end up switching it up. He might just steamroll Hurt. Who knows? So we've got our top four: Mia Spargo in the winner's side and Akola Hurt in the loser's side. And for Mia Spargo, they've been trading sets back and forth, but you do have Spargo coming out on top more often than not. And he does win their last encounter at Don't Park on the grass. He actually beats Mia twice at that event, though. You do have Mia resetting him in the grand finals, and it's almost assuredly going to be Cloud Game & Watch. Like, you do have Aegis as a choice for Spargo, yes, but it hasn't worked out well in the past, and I also just think that on paper, Cloud does match better into Game & Watch, and I do think that Spargo should be favored, but this is like a 55-45, 60-40, I feel like is even stretching it. This is a very close set between two of the best players in the world, but the matchup is slightly in favor in one of them, so I'm going to be giving it to that guy. Then you're going to have Akola versus Hurt, and I kind of talked about this earlier when I was talking about just Hurt against Steve in general, but Akola gives Hurt a lot of minecarts that he just should not be giving him. For the level of player that Akola is at, it is just like unacceptable, the rate of minecarts that he's giving to him. And I think he definitely realizes that. I think coming into this has been a little bit since he's played Hurt, he should be a lot more composed. He should have a better game plan. But I need to see that game plan until I actually believe in it, because it looks like Hurt has got Akola's number recently. He's just been so dominant against him that there needs to be a big change up from Akola. So you've got Mia Hurt in the loser side, and the exact same thing I said on the winner side. There is only one player in this entire world that I will predict to win against Hurt right now, and he just happened to run into him twice in one bracket. Game & Watch is a very, very difficult matchup for Snake. You have to play it entirely differently. Is it possible for Hurt to do? Yes, he's done it once in the past. He's gotten close before, but it's just so, so difficult that until I've actually seen him do it recently, I cannot faithfully bet on him. You're going to get that rematch of the winner's final, Spargo versus Mia. Let's say Mia resets the bracket like he does at Don't Park, but I do think that with two brackets on his side, Spargo should get the dub here and be your winner of Battle of BC7. And with that, I thank you all for watching. I hope you enjoyed the sport. It's been absolutely unreal. If there's anything I left out, got wrong, or if you just want to say hi, leave a comment down below. Be sure to sub while you're down there, and I'll see you all in the next one. Bye-bye.